I used to think Atlanta breathed like a man dying slow. Long, rattled exhales. A wheeze between glass towers and liquor stores. The city was alive, but not well. Like it needed a cigarette just to get out of bed. I was born in it. Raised in it. Survived it, mostly. Name's Jalen Moore. Southside, Cleveland Avenue. Mama worked night shifts at Grady Memorial, came home when the sky was still purple and the birds were asking God for crumbs. She prayed. Always prayed. Crosses on the wall, Psalm 23 tattooed behind her ear, "The Lord is my shepherd." Yeah, I memorized that before my own address. But me? I didn't pray. Not like her. Not after what happened to Marcus. Marcus was my brother. Blood and bone. Got shot coming out of the laundromat on a Tuesday. They said it was mistaken identity. I said it was God not watching. That was the first time I looked up at the sky and said, "If you're real, you've got a sick sense of humor." It was early October when everything cracked open. I had just gotten off work at a body shop near Midtown. My hands smelled like burnt oil and cheap soap. I stopped by Moe's, grabbed a burrito and sweet tea, then headed for the 83 bus stop. Same route I'd taken for 3 years. The air was heavy that night. Like the city had secrets it didn't want to say out loud. You ever feel watched but not by a person? Like the streetlights were blinking in a language only ghosts understand. I remember the sound before I saw anything. Tires screeching. A voice yelling my name. And then darkness. Not like sleep. No dreams. No colors. Just a collapse. A folding in. And then I was standing. Not on a street. Not in a hospital. Nowhere I recognized. It was quiet, but not silent. A kind of pressure in the air, like being underwater and just before your ears pop. Light didn't behave like it should, it came from nowhere, and everywhere. Soft, but too clear. I couldn't see a sun or a sky, but I could see everything around me, white stone beneath my feet, vast and cracked like something ancient. Pillars in the distance, floating in place like they weren't part of gravity anymore. I wasn't alone. There was a man. Sitting on a bench. Simple white robe. Leather sandals. Looked old, but not weak. His eyes were closed, and his hands rested over a book on his lap. The closer I got, the more familiar he looked, not from my life, but from my screen. News clips. Interviews. Vatican speeches. It was Pope Francis. My first thought. What the hell is he doing here? Second thought. What the hell am I doing here? I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Not a word. Just breath. He opened his eyes. And in that moment, I swear to you, it wasn't his face that got me. It wasn't the papal robes or the sense of sacredness. It was his eyes. They weren't human. Not really. They looked like polished obsidian. Reflective. Too deep. Like if you looked long enough, you'd see yourself from the inside out. Like they weren't his eyes at all, but windows to something older than light. He spoke. And the world around me shifted. You came by accident, he said. But accidents have always been the favorite mask of fate. I didn't know what to say. Couldn't move. He stood. Slowly. As if gravity needed permission. And he walked toward me, steps echoing like thunder in a cathedral. Jalen, he said. He knew my name. You have questions. But first you must die a second time. He raised one hand, and the light behind him bent, warped, cracked like glass. I saw a door form in the air, made of shadows and gold, humming like a heartbeat. It wasn't fear I felt. Not exactly. It was the knowledge that what came next couldn't be unlearned. Behind this door is the truth you were never meant to carry. A truth the church buried in a box made of centuries. But it knows your name now. He looked at me one more time. And I swear, I saw myself, broken and bare, in the mirror of his eyes. He didn't wait for me to answer. The door opened on its own, not with a creak or groan, but like it had been waiting. Like it was hungry. And I walked through. I don't remember moving my feet. I just remember the feeling, like walking through warm oil, or molasses made of memory. Everything slowed, stretched, and trembled. And then I was somewhere else. The first thing that hit me was sound. Not noise. Not talking. Not music. It was a low, endless chant, like thousands of voices humming the same note just beneath hearing range. Like the bones of the world were singing. The space I stepped into didn't make sense, not geometrically. It was shaped like a cathedral, but with no walls. No floor. Just dark stone floating in an ocean of stars. Every step echoed, but there was no gravity. My body felt light, but my thoughts got heavy. Above me floated an inverted cross, made not of wood or iron, but of mirrors. Each shard reflected something different. One showed a child crying in a desert. Another, a soldier with his mouth sewn shut. Another showed me, still lying on the pavement back in Atlanta, blood pooling around my shoulder, people just walking by. I looked away. That's when I saw them. The keepers. Tall figures in red robes, faces hidden behind porcelain masks. Each mask was featureless, no eyes, no mouths, just smooth white surfaces. They stood silently in rows along the sides of the space, unmoving, but I felt their attention on me like heat from a fire. And then I saw the one who waited in the center. Not Pope Francis this time. No. This was a woman, ancient and radiant, dressed in black feathers. Her skin was the color of onyx, lips painted gold. Around her head, a halo, but broken. It spun in pieces like shattered planets caught in orbit. She held a book. And when she spoke, it wasn't with words. It was with truth. Do you know what the Vatican keeps beneath its gardens? I didn't answer. I couldn't. She stepped forward. There is a library buried so deep no man has walked it fully in centuries. Within it, a vault. Within that vault, a manuscript bound in the skin of a martyr and inked in blood not of this earth. They call it the Evangelium Sanguinis, the blood gospel. It was written before Peter. Before Christ. Before language. I tried to speak. My throat burned. It tells of the first God, not the God you know. The one who was cast out when the world was still an idea. And of his children. She opened the book. Smoke poured out. Not just smoke, but visions. I saw flashes. A serpent made of light swallowing stars. A priest carving runes into his chest in a desert chapel. The Pope, our Pope, kneeling before a pulsing, heart-shaped relic, whispering secrets in a language that sounded like crying. And then I saw myself. Older. Wearing white robes. Holding the same book. You were chosen, Jalen, the woman said, her eyes now glowing gold. Not by the church. Not by fate. But by the truth that lives beneath the lie. The church does not serve the light. It serves the mirror of the light. And then she leaned in close, her voice like thunder behind velvet. The one who wears the fisherman's ring is not what he seems. He walks in flesh, but his reflection is a window. And you've already looked through. The ground beneath me cracked. A great sound rose behind me. The keepers began to hum, louder and louder, until the whole space trembled. The woman whispered one last thing. If you go back, they will find you. If you stay, you will become them. Choose. My skin burned. My bones felt like glass. And the mirrors above me began to shatter, one by one. I thought of Mama. Of Marcus. Of Atlanta breathing. And then, I made my choice. I chose to go back. But back isn't what I thought it would be. It didn't happen like waking up from a dream. No bright light. No angelic chorus. No beeping heart monitor and teary-eyed nurse saying, "Welcome back, baby." It was violent. The return tore something. Like my soul had to be ripped out of that other world and jammed back into my body like a puzzle piece that didn't fit anymore. I woke up choking. Blood in my throat, in my mouth. My shirt soaked. I was still on the pavement. Still under the amber flicker of that broken streetlight on Glenwood and 3rd, sirens in the distance. A woman screaming. My burrito spilled on the ground next to me like some kind of dark joke. But my eyes weren't the same. I could still see her, the woman with the halo of broken stars, not in front of me, but inside. Like she was sitting behind my vision, whispering between my thoughts. And worse than that, I saw him. Pope Francis. Standing on the other side of a glass that no one else could see, looking at me like a father who regretted the gift he gave. They said I was dead for 6 minutes. Cardiac arrest from blood loss. Punctured lung. The paramedics revived me with adrenaline and chest compressions and a whispered prayer, maybe. I don't remember any of that. What I remember is the dream that wasn't a dream, and the pain in my hand. There was a symbol burned into my palm. A ring, open at the top, jagged, shaped like a serpent biting its own tail, but reversed, as if it was vomiting itself instead of swallowing. Beneath it, Latin words I'd never seen before, but somehow understood. Non Deus, said Umbra. Not God, but shadow. They kept me at Grady Memorial for 2 days. That's when the dream started. Not nightmares. Worse. Visions. I saw corridors beneath the Vatican paved with human teeth. I saw nuns with their eyelids sewn open, praying in candlelit rooms filled with dead birds. I saw a man in white kneeling before a massive book, the one she showed me, whispering. Open the ring. Let the unspoken speak again. And then, on the 3rd night, I saw the Pope's hand. Wearing the fisherman's ring. Only now, I understood it. It wasn't a symbol of apostolic succession. It was a seal. Not to grant power, but to contain it. And that seal was breaking. When I was discharged, I went home. To Mama's place. She cried like only a southern black mother can, with both joy and suspicion. She felt it. She knew something followed me back. Mama's got that Holy Ghost radar. Said she felt a chill every time she looked in my eyes. Jalen, she whispered one night in the kitchen, you ain't come back alone. I couldn't lie. So I didn't say a word. That night, I opened my laptop. Typed into Google, Fisherman's Ring plus Vatican plus Shadow. Nothing. I went deeper. Forums. Archive news. Occult PDFs buried in forgotten corners of the web. And then I found it. A scan journal. Written by a Jesuit priest named Father Angelo Marquez. Dated 1993. Stamped confidential. It described something called the Mirror Doctrine. According to Father Marquez, the Mirror Doctrine was an unofficial gospel, whispered only among a forbidden sect within the Vatican, a doctrine that said God's light was so pure it cast a perfect opposite. And that this opposite was alive. A being without a name. A being that reflects everything God creates, not in form, but in intention. A thing of order, yes, but cold, blind, mechanical. A spiritual photocopy with no soul. And it had only one desire, to wear God's name. And the Pope. He wasn't just the head of the church. He was the lock. The anchor keeping the shadow from fully entering our world. And he was losing the fight. Suddenly, it all made sense. The woman in feathers. The book bound in skin. The visions. But one question haunted me more than any other. Why me? Why a mechanic from Atlanta? Why a nobody with no seminary, no holy bloodline, no armor of God? The answer came the next night. At 3:33 a.m. I woke up to silence. Not quiet. Silence. No street noise. No dogs. No hum from the fridge. Even the air felt still. I walked to the mirror in the hallway. And when I looked, I didn't see myself. I saw him. Pope Francis. But older. Gaunt. Eyes like black glass. And behind him, something moved. Tall. Skeletal. Wearing his skin like a cloak. It whispered. You are the mirror now, Jalen. You reflect what cannot be shown. The seal has cracked. The light must die. And you will show them how. I screamed. Punched the mirror. Glass and blood everywhere. Mama burst in screaming the Lord's Prayer. I fell to my knees. Breathing hard. Heart pounding like war drums. Because I understood now. The Pope wasn't a prophet. He was a prison. And what he was holding back was almost free. I didn't sleep after that night. Not just because of fear, but because I couldn't. Something inside me had changed, like my mind was now wired into a different current. Every time I closed my eyes, I didn't dream. I remembered. But they weren't my memories. They were someone else's. Maybe hundreds of someone else's. Flickers of robes dragging across marble, fingers dipped in ash, a quill scratching words into human parchment. A room beneath the Vatican where the crucifix hung upside down, and people chanted in reverse Latin. And always, that book. The Evangelium Sanguinis. The Gospel of Blood. I needed answers. And not from books. Not from forums run by half-baked conspiracy theorists using usernames like LuciferIsLight69. I needed someone who'd seen it. Touched it. Survived it. That's when I remembered Father Elijah Banks. He wasn't famous. He wasn't online. But my cousin knew him. Used to say he was the only priest who refused to bless a Bible unless it was printed before 1962. Said the newer ones had been diluted. Corrupted. Rome edits the recipe, he told her once. Like soda companies. I found him in Decatur. Tiny brick chapel near an abandoned car wash. The stained glass was cracked, the sign out front said only, "Come thirsty." I stepped inside. It smelled like dust, wax, and wet stone. And I felt at the moment I crossed the threshold. Resistance. Like something in the walls was pushing back against me. Not rejecting me, testing me. Father Banks looked like a man who hadn't slept in years. Skin the color of deep bronze leather, eyes sharp, shoulders tense beneath his cassock like he expected gunfire at any moment. He studied me without a word as I sat down across from him in the confessional, not in the usual way, but face to face. You saw it, he said before I could open my mouth. I nodded. He closed his eyes. Whispered a name under his breath. Absalom. Then he stood, locked the chapel doors, and drew a curtain over the crucifix. We don't speak in front of him when we talk about it. He poured bourbon into 2 chipped mugs. You're marked now, boy. That symbol in your hand. That's not a curse. That's a beacon. They see you through it. And now they'll want what you carry. What do I carry? I asked. He looked me dead in the eyes. Memory. He told me the church had split centuries ago, not in public, like with Protestants and Catholics, but underground. Secret orders. One kept the ritual. The other kept the truth. There was a time, Father Banks whispered, when popes wore 2 rings. One for the people. And one for the mirror. I asked him about the book. He didn't flinch. You've seen it. I think so. He poured more bourbon. Didn't drink. They say it's written in 3 tongues, Latin, Hebrew, and something older. Something the angels won't translate. Only the marked can read it. That's why it shows itself to the dying. Because we're halfway out, I said. Exactly. He leaned closer. And if you've seen it once, you're already changing. You'll start to remember things no one taught you. Smell incense where there ain't none. Speak names you've never heard. That's the heretic's gospel waking up in you. The version of scripture buried in ash. He pulled a worn leather pouch from inside his coat. Inside was a photo. Black and white. Faded. But unmistakable. It was Pope Francis. Standing beside a figure too tall, too blurred to make sense of. Its arms too long, robes floating like smoke. This was taken in 1979, Banks said. Argentina. Before he was Pope. The creature next to him. That's not metaphor. That's real. I couldn't breathe. Why would he let it in? I asked. Why serve it? Father Banks tapped his temple. He's not serving it. He's trying to contain it. Just like all of them did before him. That's the job no one tells you about when you put on the white robe. The mitre ain't a crown, it's a lid. I stood up. So what do I do now? He paused. Then handed me a key. Old. Iron. Covered in rust and something darker. Go to St. Ludovico Cemetery in New Orleans. There's a vault. 3rd row, 6th crypt. Behind it, a stairwell. That key opens the final door. What's inside? His voice cracked. A mirror that doesn't reflect. I left that night with shaking hands and a fire in my chest. The mark on my palm was bleeding again. And when I looked up at the sky above Atlanta, I saw a star blink out. One by one, the lights were being snuffed. Like something was crawling closer. New Orleans smelled like death dressed in perfume. Sweet rot and cigarette ash. Bourbon and magnolia. Something old hiding beneath something festive. I got off the Greyhound at 4:44 a.m. Nobody noticed me. That's how I knew I was getting close, like the world was already editing me out. The deeper I went, the quieter everything got. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't text anyone. The key was heavy in my coat pocket, warm like a heart. The cemetery was waiting. St. Ludovico's isn't on any tour. The entrance gate has no name. Just rusted iron twisted into the shape of a broken halo. The air changed the second I stepped through, humid, yes, but still. Thick like molasses. Like I was walking into someone's mouth. Marble crypts stretched in rows like crooked teeth. All of them cracked, sun-bleached, or half-swallowed by moss. Names scratched away. Crosses upside down. And always, the silence. But I knew where to go. Row 3. 6th crypt. It looked like all the others. Plain. No flowers. Just a slab and a stone cross leaning at a lazy angle. I slid the key into a hole beneath a crumbled plaque. The stone shifted. And the ground opened. The stairwell wasn't carved. It was chewed. That's what it looked like, as if some huge jaw had gnawed a spiral down into the earth. The walls glistened. The steps were uneven. The deeper I went, the more the air smelled like iron and candle wax. My phone wouldn't work down there. No flashlight. No signal. Just darkness that breathed. I lit a match. That's when I saw the teeth. They were everywhere. Embedded in the walls. Human teeth. Baby teeth. Animal teeth. Some too large, too jagged to be anything from this world. And each one was grinning. I came to a door. Old wood. Painted red. Symbols carved into it like scars. A word etched across the top. Speculum. The mirror. I touched it. And it opened inward. Inside, a room shaped like a dome turned inside out. Candles burned in a circle. The flames weren't orange, they were black. And in the center stood a mirror the size of a doorway. But it didn't show me. It showed him. The Pope. But not how I remembered him. This version was pale. Hollow. His eyes replaced with spinning rings of light. His mouth moved like a puppet's, jerking, twitching, but the voice I heard came from behind me. Jalen. My son. You've seen what sleeps beneath the vestments. I spun. No one was there. You've read the heretic's gospel, not with eyes, but with blood. The mirror doctrine is alive in you. You are the echo of a truth no church will ever confess. And now, you must look through. The mirror shifted. It became liquid. A surface that rippled without sound. And then, suddenly, I was no longer in the vault. I was standing in a room of impossible architecture. Pillars made of screaming faces. A ceiling that folded into itself like origami stitched from shadows. And in the center, a throne. Something sat on it. Too big to be human. Too shapeless to be named. Draped in robes made of prayers, literal prayers, hundreds of whispered voices stitched together into one endless moan. It turned slowly toward me. And though it had no eyes, I knew it saw me. You are the vessel, it said. The one cracked just enough to pour through. You carry his name. But not his meaning. You reflect him. But not his mercy. You are what comes after belief. Then I felt it. Behind my ribs, something moving. Like a second heartbeat. Like a memory being inserted. Visions hit me in flashes. A nun feeding communion wafers to a mouth beneath the floor. The Pope carving a ring into his chest with a bone knife. A boy, me, in a church basement, singing in Latin before I could even speak English. And then, darkness. Total, endless, crushing darkness. I woke up gasping on the floor of the vault. The mirror was cracked. The candles were gone. But something was different. I looked at my hand. The mark was gone. In its place, a hole, not bleeding, not broken. Just empty. A perfect circle burned clean through my palm. And I knew what it meant. I wasn't just seeing the mirror doctrine now. I was part of it. The reflection had found a face. And it was mine. I walked out of that vault with silence stitched into my skin. New Orleans was just waking up, jazz humming low from an open window, someone frying eggs on a porch, the smell of chicory coffee curling through the fog. The world moved as if nothing had happened. But it had. I had. The hole in my hand didn't bleed. It pulsed. Not with pain, with presence. Like something sacred or diseased had made its home inside me. I tried to wear gloves. Bandages. But nothing covered it. It showed through like a shadow underwater. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was being seen. I made it back to Atlanta in 3 days. Roads blurred. Faces faded. Food tasted like paper. The world was draining color and I knew why. It was preparing to mirror itself. The doctrine whispered behind my teeth now. Not in English. Not even Latin. In something older. Something true. It said, God made light. But every light casts a shadow. Even the Word. Especially the Word. The church had always claimed to follow the sun. But they never told us that the sun had a reflection. And it was hungry. I didn't go back to Mama's. Didn't tell friends. Didn't answer calls. I had one destination left. Rome. I flew out using a passport I don't remember applying for. The TSA didn't stop me. My ticket scanned without error. At every checkpoint, I moved like a ghost passing through glass. No friction. No resistance. I arrived at Vatican City under a red sky. Not metaphorically. The sky was red, as if sunset had been caught in a loop, bleeding across the clouds in a wound that wouldn't close. And the crowd outside St. Peter's Basilica was silent. Thousands of faces, all staring at the balcony. Waiting. They were waiting for the Pope. But he never came. Because he was already inside. With me. I don't remember walking through the gates. No guard stopped me. No barriers held me. The obelisk in the center of the plaza pulsed like a heartbeat. I climbed the marble steps and passed through doors that shouldn't have opened, and yet they did. The Sistine Chapel was empty. The fresco above me seemed to shift. God wasn't reaching for Adam anymore. He was reaching for a mirror. And the mirror was cracked. In the center of the chapel stood a single chair. And in that chair, him. Pope Francis. Or what was left of him. He was older than old now. Bones wrapped in silk. Fingers like dry roots. But his eyes. They were mine. Jalen, he rasped. You've come home. I stepped closer. I'm not your son. No, he whispered. You're my replacement. He stood, barely. Unfolded like paper soaked in blood. His hands trembled as he pulled the fisherman's ring from his finger. It slid off like water. He held it out. And I saw what I wasn't meant to see. Inside the ring wasn't gold. It was teeth. A circle of gnashing white molars, grinding in a rhythm too ancient to be human. He smiled. Put it on. I should have run. Screamed. Prayed. But I didn't. Because I understood now. There is no faith without shadow. No salvation without reflection. I took the ring. And the moment I did, the chapel screamed. The fresco cracked. Light poured in, but it wasn't light from the sun. It was mirror light, cold, white, infinite. The Pope collapsed into ash. His robe crumpled like empty skin. And the voices began. Thousands. No, millions. All of them chanting in a language that had no vowels, only breath. I felt them pressing into me, through me, with me. My eyes rolled back. My hand, the one with the hole, lifted by itself. And then. The hole closed. Sealed by the ring. And I saw. I saw every pope that had come before. Each one carrying the weight. each one whispering the doctrine through blood-soaked confessions. And I saw what comes after. A church with no altar. A prayer with no God. A faith that believes only in reflection. Not truth. Not lies. Just echo. I am not Jalen anymore. I am the last pope. The ring does not command. It remembers. And now I carry the mirror doctrine, not hidden beneath robes or buried in vaults, but in my very bones. I walk the streets. I preach in silence. I baptize with shadow. I bless with the back of my hand. And when I pass by mirrors, they do not reflect. They watch.